Welcome to another tutorial for Workshop software. Today we'll talk about the customer workflow, including bookings, invoicing, and payments. Let's start with bookings and the booking diary. The diary is the best page to see your availability. For example, on this day, on the 24th, I can see I have 2 jobs that are going to take 5 hours, and I have 13 hours roughly available. On the next day, I can see I have 1 job taking 3.5 hours. Now it says there are 2 tasks. That's because if I open the day by clicking on anywhere in the field, you can clearly see I have 1 job that has a split 1 of 2, and the same job, so it's the same customer, same vehicle. If I highlight it, you can see it says split 2 of 2. So this one booking has 2 entries in the diary. You can very easily drag and drop these times to reassign them to different people or to different times. Back in the month view, if you'd like to make a new booking, all you need to do is press the plus icon. Select your customer, and if they already exist in the system, they'll appear. Or you can press plus to create a new customer. This is a mini version of the customer page, which we've looked at in a previous video. I'm going to use George, that's already in my system, and you can see the vehicle assigned to George automatically comes up. I just need to select it. If I need to add a new vehicle, I can press the plus icon instead to help me create a new vehicle, or use the registration lookup feature, which we've also looked at in a previous session, that would add in many of this vehicle's information. I've selected the existing vehicle, and you can see lots of information has already come down. The only thing left for me to do is add a description and customize the product line. In our previous session, we spoke about the difference between regular labor for repairs, fittings, and anything else like that, whereas service labor is a special type of labor that will mark this job as a service. This helps with our reminder system. So simply select if you'd like regular labor or service labor, and choose the quantity and the price. You may have the quantity and the price for the labor pre-selected when you're creating the product in the products page. You can also manually enter them on the booking or job like I've just done. To alter how this booking appears on the diary, you simply press the cogwheel symbol. It's asking me to save, and I'll press yes. I can now specify if I want to give more or less time on the diary than I'm charging. Potentially, I have an apprentice that I'm giving more time to. I'll then select the mechanic and the time that this is going to get performed. And then I'll press update. That's all you need to create a booking. You have the option to add additional products if needed. And you can see just by typing the name of the product after pressing the plus icon, it searches my product list for me. You can also press this down arrow and use a supplier that you're integrated with, such as Repco, Burson, HSY, ProLink, Parts Tech, and more. You can also add notes. You may need to add in information such as there's a rattling sound at 40 kilometers per hour. Or maybe you want to add a template that you've created in the company lists page that we've also looked at previously. And you can even add job card notes. And here's me adding a template that I already had saved. If you needed to, you can also press the star on the vehicle line to quickly access the vehicle's history and see the last invoices that you've issued for it. By simply clicking on the invoice, I can see all the notes I've left for them. Now all I need to do is press Save. Let's see how this looks in the booking diary. So now on the 31st, I have 2 jobs taking 6 hours. If I click on the day, you can see it's zoomed in for me, and I can take a look here at when it's going to get done. So it looks like I actually scheduled it at the same time as something else. So I'm going to rearrange that, and now I'm ready to go. Once the day arrives and the vehicle comes into the workshop, all I need to do is click on the booking to reopen it, and then press Start Job. This is going to take us from a customer booking that we've just been working on to a customer invoice. An open invoice in workshop software is where you work on the job. So let's press Start Job, and it will copy everything over for us. And I can tell I'm on the invoice page now because it says here. And the top looks the same. I have the customer and the vehicle, and so does the bottom with the product lines and the invoice and job card notes. Some extra things you can do on an invoice page are, on the customer line, you can press the star to change the customer or send them an SMS message. You can press the star on the vehicle line to see the history still. You can view attachments added in the app or add your own. And in the activity log, you can view anytime you've sent an email from this job or anytime you've changed the invoice type from an invoice to a credit or a quote. On the customer invoice line, you have these 2 icons. Starting with the star, you can see a gross profit analysis, split the invoice with an insurer or warranty provider, or simply another customer. You can duplicate the invoice with this copy invoice function. This is very helpful if you've processed the invoice and you've made an error in the costing, pricing, or product lines. You can duplicate the invoice before voiding the original. You can also link an inspection or a supplier order directly to the job here. And if you need to make changes to the calendar, you simply press Open Booking. And this will take you back to the booking page we were just working on. You'll notice everything is locked now. I can't change anything. Except the cogwheel is still available and lit up. So if we're going to have to work on this for a second day, I could simply press Create, select who's going to be working on it, the date, and the time. And just like that, this booking is now in my calendar twice. Now the reason why we can't make any changes here other than the calendar is because our system is trying to tell us to go back to the job to make all new changes there. So let's double click on that to find the job for us. Another way to find the job is to simply go to the Transaction Center. This shows you all of your open jobs. Let's head into the job we were working on. Now this next icon is the share icon. You can print an invoice or a job card, email them, or SMS them. Let's take a look at what a printed invoice may look like. Now in our previous sessions, we saw that there's a whole section of settings for how the invoice looks. So feel free to go back to that video to customize your invoice template. And this is what a job card will look like. Now in this field, this is all new compared to the booking. You could add a customer order number. You can change the post date. You can change the invoice type. And keep in mind, changing the invoice type, for example, to a quote, we'll change the options in the share button, so now you print or email a quote, not an invoice. The account type is pre-filled by the customer's profile. So remember, cash means cash on delivery, and this person is paying straight away. When I press process on this invoice, my system will prompt me with a pop-up for the customer payment screen, and it'll ask me to enter their method of payment. If the customer is not paying straight away, for example, they have a 7-day payment term, or they're paying by direct deposit, so I won't see that they've paid until later, change this to account. This gives you the option to enter payment terms. And now, when I press process, it will not ask me how the customer paid. Instead, it will save the balance due on the customer's profile, and they'll have a statement generated under Analytics and Statements. You can fill in these 3 fields to have them printed on the invoice as well as get saved on the vehicle's profile. You can then use the job status and job status comment fields to have up-to-date notes. You may have noticed in the Transaction Center, my job status and job status comment are visible here, so it means I don't need to open the job to see some details on it. You can then enter the customer source if you would like to track that, and continue working on your products and notes. We have other videos on how to use the supplier integrations, but if you're looking to add a product and it's not already in your system, you can simply press Add Products. And this opens a mini version of the product page that we've also looked at previously. So I could fill in the item code, the description, a cost to me, and the price that the customer will be paying. You can also add in description 2, searchable tags, the supplier you're purchasing it from, assign it to a group for better reporting, and add a brand in. If this is a non-stocked item, for example, if I just had a part called parts or miscellaneous, I would tick this don't update quantity field, so my system doesn't count the quantity on hand. Now you'll also notice stars on the right side of this field. If your mechanics are clocking on and off on the app, you can press the star and view or enter mechanic times. Just here, by selecting the mechanic, the time that they should have clocked on the app, and the time they should have clocked off on the app. You'll be able to see their hours logged just here in the hours field, and this is separate to the quantity on hand. So for example, if this mechanic had to go back and work extra, for example, if they ended up working until 11, this does not automatically update the billing quantity because you may have already positioned the price to the customer. However, now that you've seen that they've worked extra, you may choose to let the customer know it's taken longer than expected and it will be a little bit more. You can also see a notes section. This notes section adds information directly underneath that product line on the invoice or the job card. This is different to invoice and job card notes because this is one large note section at the bottom of the whole document, whereas this note is directly underneath the product. For stocked items, such as this oil filter, you can also change the cost to your business. Maybe this time when you purchased it, you actually purchased it for a little bit more. So it's updating the cost for us. If you enter your supplier invoices, this would automatically happen in our system to update the costs of the products and update the quantity for you. Using this dropdown, you can add a deposit. For example, if this customer has paid $100 already, maybe by card, it's now registered against this total balance due. And you can even add a discount, either a set amount, like a dollar value, or I could make it a percentage. Please keep in mind, if you're integrated with an accounting software, such as MYOB, Xero, or QuickBooks, this deposit line will not reflect in your accounting software. This will only reflect in your accounting software once you process the invoice. If you need deposits taken to be reflected in your accounting software immediately, please take a look at the Workshop Software Workflows document to find out more, or visit our Help Center, where you can find videos specifically detailing how to take deposits. Now I'm going to process this customer as a cash on delivery customer to show you what the pop-up looks like. It's asking me to update the date to today because it noticed it's not today's date as my post date, so I'll say yes. And am I sure? Yes. Now this is a mini version of the customer payment screen where I can select how they've paid and how much they've paid. I can add a reference number if needed. You then get the option to immediately print the invoice if you'd like. If you'd like to instead email it, select No, press the share icon, and you can email the invoice to the customer. If you had attachments, there would be an extra option here, letting you add those attachments. I'm going to duplicate this invoice and show you what it would look like if this was an account customer and not a cash on delivery customer. So you can see the copy invoice function copied everything. I'm simply going to change this to account and press save. So I'm going to process this invoice once again. Am I sure? Yes. And you'll see there was no pop-up asking me how did the customer pay. Instead, there's an account balance due. If I searched up this customer, I would also be able to immediately see at the top of their profile that they have a balance due just there. And I can also see all of my customers who have a balance due under analytics and statements. There's George there. If I would like to send George a monthly statement, all I need to do is select a start and end date, click on George, and press send. That will send an email because it says type email. If I'd like to print a copy, I need to change this to print all, and then we'll press send. And this is what a statement will look like in Workshop software. You can also change this toggle to an aging statement format. So instead of putting set dates, you just say, show them all their invoices from this date and before. And that will look like this. Their current balance owing and their aging values as well. When the customer has paid, press on the Actions lightning bolt and go to Customer Payment. Enter in the customer's name, and then select the magnifying glass to search for all unpaid invoices. Select on all the invoices you'd like them to pay for then, and press select. Now choose how much you're applying onto each invoice here, under Applied Amount. Then, specify how they've paid and the amount that they've paid under that payment method. So for example, potentially only 400 was paid by direct deposit, and the remainder was paid by cash. I now press Process to close the invoice. Now keep in mind, every time you process a payment or you process an invoice in Workshop software, we will send that directly through to your accounting software. If you make changes to those documents in your accounting software, they will not be reflected back in Workshop software. All changes have to be made here. If you've processed an invoice or a payment and need to void it, simply find the customer, go to the bottom of their profile, and find the invoice or payment you need to void. Simply open the document by double-clicking and scroll to the bottom and press Void. That will remove it from both Workshop software and your accounting software. I hope that video helped, and make sure to book your onboarding session to go through this in more detail and answer all your questions.